GoldenEye 007 revolutionized first-person shooters on the home console market back in '97 with outstanding weapons, level design, a monstrous music score, and even fast movement mechanics that cultivated an unforgettable single and multiplayer experience with immense replay value. Its footprint on the world will never decay, and with good reason. But 3 years later, in the year 2000, its spiritual successor, Perfect Dark, entered the arena with an unfathomable mountain of features that took Revolution even further, expanding on GoldenEye's very engine and pushing the Nintendo 64 to its absolute limit. This video's sole purpose is to place heavy emphasis on Perfect Dark, highlighting all of its ingenious ideas and features that surpass even GoldenEye, because that's exactly what it is, a much bigger and better GoldenEye 007 with gameplay innovations that the majority of the world is still unaware ever existed next to Mr. Bond. So take a seat and let me show you exactly why Perfect Dark deserves equal praise, if not more, than GoldenEye. Perfect Dark's accolades probably go in this categorical order of power: weapons and gadgets, artificial intelligence, multiplayer, and single player. In every category, the game redefines the standard for all first-person shooters to follow, and some ideas to this day remain unmatched. But let's ease into things, touching first on single player, where this game sticks most to the GoldenEye formula with some quality of life changes. The entire single-player mission mode copies its predecessor in every way, from movement details like speed strafing to cover more ground in less time, to objective-based levels that get more complex between the 3 difficulty settings, to unlocking cheats by beating certain difficulties in under a specific amount of time, to essentially every single thing else that you know about GoldenEye. In a sense, you can think of Perfect Dark as an expansion to the highly acclaimed shooter that everybody knows. The point is, if you liked GoldenEye even in the slightest, you'll love Perfect Dark and already know how to play. The only difference is Perfect Dark takes on a futuristic sci-fi theme with story elements surrounding aliens and conspiracy theories, perhaps a reason why many shallowly dismiss it compared to the tried and true James Bond license. Regardless of how you feel about science fiction, the only topic we care about here is exactly how does Perfect Dark take GoldenEye's gameplay structure and push it to the next level. Well, to start off simple, the very first thing that comes to mind is the addition of the quick menu. By holding the A button for a second, a red menu displaying up to 8 of your immediate weapons pops up, allowing for on-the-fly switching to specific weapons or gadgets that you want, without the need to stare at your watch in the middle of enemy fire, or cycle in chronological order for 9 years to get to the one that you want. This is by far the biggest quality of life change added to Perfect Dark that aids in the single-player experience. But that's hardly enough to claim superiority just yet. Let's talk about co-op mode. That's right, Perfect Dark allows for 2 players to take on the story missions of the game together, which for the year 2000 was a huge thing. But even alone, you can still play with a helper in the form of an AI character. While the AI might not be as good as a human, the fact that it can follow you near flawlessly and assist the whole way is a feat in itself. But we'll dive deeper into the artificial intelligence later. One can't help but imagine what the GoldenEye facility might look like if a second player was able to control 006. In addition to co-op mode, Perfect Dark has a highly unique counter-operative mode. This allows for a second player to join the enemy in every story mission, assisting the guards in eliminating player 1. Or if the second player felt nice, he could just kill all the guards for you without fear of retaliation and make it smooth sailing to the end of the level. These modes are just 2 examples of how Perfect Dark goes beyond GoldenEye in terms of the main story missions, but everyone knows it's multiplayer that makes GoldenEye memorable. However, before we can go into how Perfect Dark improves even on multiplayer, we must talk about the fundamental piece that makes a shooter fun: the guns. Immediately apparent is the fact that Perfect Dark's entire arsenal has 2 functions: a primary fire that you'd expect from any gun, and a secondary fire that is almost always extremely innovative. Where maybe your common pistol isn't all that exciting, there are a slew of weapons that deserve standout recognition even to this day, so let's talk about them. Unarmed. That's right, the first unique weapon is your fists. Punching is all well and good, but the secondary ability Disarm is the true powerhouse here. One swift punch strips enemies of their current weapon and adds it to your inventory. This comes in handy almost everywhere across both single and multiplayer, and it definitely beats Bond's little slap chop. The laptop gun. This beast is an automatic with great accuracy, but it goes a step further with a feature that has been sung praises ever since its unveil. The gun folds up and deploys as a sentry gun that can stick to walls and floors, then auto-targets any enemy within its vicinity with deadly accuracy. When used as an extra defense for guarding your team base or a desirable pickup like body armor, this thing makes you unstoppable. The Psychosis Gun. One of the most ingenious ideas of this game, this tranquilizer dart corrupts enemies in the single-player missions, turning them into teammates that very effectively hunt down all of their former buddies. This can't be used in multiplayer, but it is still one of the standout weapons of Perfect Dark to me. This gun really highlights the AI of the game as well, but as I've said, that's a whole category in itself to discuss later on in this video. The Phoenix. This neat little alien pistol fires cool-sounding green lasers and has an awesome reload animation. But once again, the secondary firing mode sells it. Explosive Shells mode turns every single bullet into a mini grenade, effectively ensnaring enemies in a mess of explosions nearly equal in power to that of an actual explosive weapon. The Mauler. This alien weapon is once again little more than a pistol at first, but the secondary mode Charge-Up Shot causes it to glow a deep red and at full power changes the gun into a one-hit kill weapon. With the ability to hold an obscene amount of ammo and wield two at once, this thing becomes more fatal than the legendary Golden Gun in the hands of anyone with any kind of accuracy. The CMP-150, the game's standard automatic. Dual-wielding these is a surefire way to mop up an entire room of enemies in rapid fashion, but the secondary fire is once again what sells it. Follow Lock-On allows the gun to auto-aim in sequential order at every target you select, which is a godsend against opponents running up and down various elevations at speeds way too fast to track with manual aim. The Dragon. This thing is a monster already as is, but its secondary mode is pure genius. It deploys as a proximity mine, making it even useful without any ammo. Planting it around corners or on top of other gun pickups is both evil and immensely satisfying, unless of course it's you falling victim to it. This is the perfect example of how this game takes a standard weapon and adds on an immensely creative twist to create an extremely novel gun. The Super Dragon. Identical to the Dragon in every way, except instead of a mine as its secondary, the thing doubles as a grenade launcher. This means you have a super powerful automatic and rapid-fire explosives at all times without the need of switching weapons. Overpowered? Yes. Awesome? Yes! The Slayer. This rocket launcher's secondary mode, fly-by-wire rockets, allows for total user control of the rocket itself, guided by its own personal camera. With this thing, you can steer the explosive shell throughout entire stages and even control its speed of travel. This thing adds a whole new way of tormenting players and gives tons of life to multiplayer matches with the chaos it brings. Sneaking one of these inside the hill or your enemy base is always satisfying. The Farsight XR20. This gun is the coolest thing ever, but also incredibly cheap and unfair. It is a one-hit kill on an unshielded enemy, but the secondary feature is what makes it insane. The thing literally tracks enemies through all walls, allowing a player to just stand in one spot and eliminate everyone on the map. Let's see the man with the Golden Gun outrun this giant probe. The RCP-120. This thing holds a ridiculous amount of ammo, but for good reason, while its main firing mode is deadly accurate and lasts forever. The secondary mode activates a cloaking device that eats through ammo. It is useful for short dashes through enemy bases where invisibility would pay off, but it comes at the cost of very frequent reload animations. Still, I can't help but marvel at the idea of this weapon. The Callisto NTG. This thing is like a rapid-fire Phoenix, but the secondary high-impact shell slows the firing rate slightly in favor of the ability to pierce through thin doors and walls as well as other people, and it just generally deals more damage. The N-Bomb. Short for neutron bomb, this thing is a grenade that explodes into a deadly black dome shape, disarming everyone in its radius and really screwing up their vision. It also ignores body armor. The secondary function turns it into a proximity fuse, adding a new flavor of chaos to death matches. Grenades. These may seem standard and not special at all, but the secondary mode turns them into an insane super bouncy ball with a proximity detonation, ricocheting around entire rooms just seeking a target, and that target could very easily be yourself if you don't get the heck out of the way. There are many more with interesting secondary functions, but those are the biggest highlights, and I don't want to take up too much time detailing every single weapon. There are, however, 2 bonus gadgets that add variety to both single and multiplayer that I absolutely love and must talk about. First is the cloaking device. We touched on this as a secondary feature to the RCP-120, but the separate device itself comes with 20 seconds worth of invisibility and can be stacked for a maximum of 300 seconds. Unlike typical invisibility, cloaking can be turned off and on at will, and disrupting the cloak field by punching or shooting will disable the invisibility until you are silent again for a few seconds. This adds a very dynamic way of playing the game, especially in multiplayer, as it opens up new strategies for the many modes of play on offer. The second awesome gadget is the combat boost. These pills slow down time, allowing human players to line up their shots more accurately and react faster in relation to the other agents in the field in a very Matrix way. Just like how cloaking adds variety to invisibility, the combat boost makes slow motion more dynamic and actually a viable strategy against opponents. These 2 things definitely spice up multiplayer matches. Speaking of, let's not delay any longer and get to the heart of replay value, multiplayer. GoldenEye was the king of 4-player split screen with specific loadouts and basic combat, offering just a few other modes of play that weren't really too popular. Proximity mines in the facility will forever be a fond memory, but if no friends or family were around to play with you, this entire mode was rendered useless. Additionally, you could only choose from a few weapon presets, often creating a scenario where a weapon you wanted to combine with, say, proximity mines wasn't available to use. It will always be held in high regard for setting the outstanding foundation, but there's no contest that Perfect Dark does it better. One look at the advanced settings menu under Combat Simulator should tell you the name of this game is customization. Tons and tons of customization. The weapons issue of GoldenEye is immediately remedied with the option of a custom loadout. Literally any weapon in the game you can not only add to the loadout, but you can dictate specifically where on the map you want it to appear. Do you want the laptop gun to appear in the awesome window room of the GoldenEye complex so you can deploy it on the ramp as a defensive turret while you take position in the window? Yeah, go for it! And speaking of, let's talk about the multiplayer maps for a moment. 3 classics from GoldenEye are available alongside a slew of Perfect Dark's own maps, and they are fully revamped for the better. The complex now has a climbable structure where there used to only be a vent, and it now leads to a pickup. Likewise, another vent that used to just look out upon dead space now has an attached walkway connecting it to the rest of the level. More importantly, every single ramp or hole can be jumped off of or down at any time. No more invisible barriers forcing you to run a long way around. This same feature makes the temple, another returning GoldenEye stage, far more dynamic, allowing for quick escapes from the huge open top area, for example. The facility of GoldenEye also returns with new blue floors and fancy doors, but unfortunately no bathroom doors. However, the bathroom vents can now be easily walked into without the need of that fancy spinning trick from GoldenEye, and the far side of it now drops off into the stairwell room, adding some new routing options. Additionally, the deep hallway area has new piping structures that can be scaled, which makes for some really cool defensive setups and team matches. But enough about the levels, let's talk about modes. In addition to standard combat for the most kills, Perfect Dark offers team options for every single mode of play. Hold the Briefcase has players fight over control of a briefcase that awards points every 20 seconds. Hacker Central is a unique mode that has players fight for control of a data uplink, which they then must bring to a laptop to hack for points. This mode is best played with teams where one player is the designated hacker and everyone else plays a protective role. Pop a Cap is a weird game of tag, where one player gets dubbed as It, and a point is awarded to whoever kills the victim. If you get labeled as It, for every minute you remain alive, you earn an extra point. But by far the 2 best modes are King of the Hill and Capture the Case. King of the Hill has options that can be changed to your liking, but the default option has the hill move location every time a team successfully secures it for 20 seconds. Unlike other first-person shooter games, Perfect Dark's hill is an entire room that must be defended, creating great opportunities for defensive setups with teammates and laptop guns. This mode is my personal favorite for how dynamic it keeps the action and the wide variety of ways the hills can be defended. Capture the Case is capture the flag, but with a briefcase. Teams each start in their own base and must defend their suitcase while going on the hunt for the other team cases. A successful capture awards 3 points. This mode is always fun in whatever game it's featured in, and it definitely has more replay value than GoldenEye's standard deathmatches. But by far, the biggest addition to all of these multiplayer options, and perhaps the #1 feature that beats GoldenEye and showcases the massive innovation of Perfect Dark, are the AI Simulants. Multiplayer is no longer limited to just human players, perfect for those moments when nobody is around but you still want to play. The simulant intelligences are meat, easy, normal, hard, perfect, and dark. Of these, the hard sim is the equivalent of a very good human player, and it often runs backwards at speeds no human player can actually run. Perfect sims have about 80% accuracy and are the ultimate opponent. They always know where you are, even if there is no radar on the map. They can move way faster than you, and they will take you out if you aren't in full anticipation of their every move. Worse yet are the dark sims. Inhuman cyborgs with 100% accuracy, incredibly fast movement, and the ability to teleport when there's no radar available. But in addition to these difficulty levels, the simulants also have about a dozen personality types, such as the Venge Sim, which will always seek to destroy the last opponent that killed him, even if it means giving up his current role of defending his team base. Or the Kazi Sim, short for Kamikaze, which will always charge straight at you even if curling grenades and firing explosives. But that is definitely not all. The biggest feature of these simulants that many people still don't know about is the ability to issue commands to them if they are on your team. Let me say that again. You can give orders to simulant allies. These orders can either be basic, personal, or mode specific, and it adds so much replay value and life to every single mode of this game. The attack command allows you to pick an enemy target for the simulant to relentlessly go after. The Protect command tells the simulant to stick by your side at all costs and shoot anyone who comes near. Even if an enemy runs by, he will stay by your side and do his very best to shoot the enemy from that position. The Follow command behaves very much like the Protect command, only the simulant will chase after enemies that come near instead of staying by your side, then happily return to you once they get their kill. The Hold command tells the simulant to stand exactly where you were when you gave the order. This particular command is one of my favorites, as it just looks cool having a team of allies all twitching in anticipation, standing perfectly still but spinning slowly as they read the radar and watch the enemies through the walls. It may not function beautifully every time, but it feels awesome setting up these makeshift team bases. I love setting up 2 alien buddies on the facility pipes and watching them destroy anyone who comes in that door. The Defend command is similar to the Hold command, but the simulant will again run off chasing enemies that get a little too close. As far as mode-specific commands, you can tell your simulants to either protect your briefcase and capture the case, or go after the enemy one. You can tell them to either hold or defend the hill in King of the Hill, hack the terminal in Hacker Central, or even go for the briefcase and hold the briefcase. To me, this is perhaps the biggest standout feature of Perfect Dark that launches it well above so many other first-person shooters. There is great emphasis on teams in every mode, and up to 12 players at a time on a map, compared to GoldenEye's 4 human player free-for-all. So the number of possible simulant combinations per mode and weapons layout seems nearly limitless. On the topic of artificial intelligence, even in the solo missions, the AI goes above and beyond GoldenEye. Enemy guards will yell for backup or even run for backup.
There's someone here! Look out! She's coming!
If disarmed, they will often fight back with karate moves or even pull out a handgun. Further detail has been added to the reactions and animations as well, so they will limp if shot in the leg or hold their arm if shot in the arm. As mentioned before, the Psychosis gun does a great job showcasing their intelligence. The only downside in both single and multiplayer is dodgy pathfinding, by today's standards at least. They often run along a very specific linear path and can sometimes get stuck for a while before correcting themselves. But for the year 2000, all of this was absolutely nuts, and I'd say it still outranks many games, not just GoldenEye.
Come on, surrender. You made your last mistake.
Man, I can go on and on about all Perfect Dark does right down to the finest detail. But I don't want to waste any more of your time. The fact of the matter is GoldenEye 007 built an outstanding foundation that gave so many people around the world years and years of fun, but Perfect Dark refined every facet of that framework and pushed it even further, creating an even more addicting experience chock full of replay value for both single and multiplayer experiences. I love both games, and there are still some days where I prefer the simplicity of GoldenEye and its conventional weaponry, iconic missions, and music. But I cannot deny that Perfect Dark has the superior gameplay. From the absolute genius secondary firing modes of so many unique weapons, a very fun single player with more cheats to unlock and goof around with than GoldenEye, more multiplayer modes both in terms of quantity and quality, fully customizable weapon sets and character options, highly advanced AI simulants, a hugely innovative simulant command system, and even the co-op and unique counter-op modes, Perfect Dark is a damn near perfect first-person shooter even to this day, with ideas still unique to its name that were ahead of its time, and it deserves to be held in high acclaim right alongside GoldenEye. I hope this video helps shine some light on this frequently forgotten masterpiece. I'm Bill from Good Old Days Gaming. Thanks for watching.
Good night, Miss Dark.